storms are generally coming our direction, but I think it's going to clear out for tonight. Tomorrow we're supposed to get some heavy thunderstorms. I'm hoping we do because we could use a really good shot of rain. So just got here to the farm, July 16th. And I was just going to drive by. I was just eyeing the plants in the way by, but man, they look so healthy and full of vitality. I just want to stop and get a nice close-up shot of them. That's really nice to see. There's some very happy plants so far this season. And I'm considering that little bit of Colorado potato bug pressure I've seen in here, and kind of waiting on rain timing and formulating things to make a really effective shot when I finally do knock them. Interesting, just noticed this now, we got potato flowers just starting to set. So that's a good sign. We're cranking along this season pretty nicely. We might even beat our harvest date. It's supposed to be 90 days to maturity. I believe these actually went in on June 9th. And so if 90 days to maturity, it would be September 9th. But we might beat that. And I didn't plan this, but I'm going to mention it because I just realized it last night. My father passed away on September 9th, 2023. And so that potato harvest would be coming back in 1 year to the day. I don't know what that means, but it's interesting to note. And I mentioned the Colorado potato bug here. I apologize for the car noise in the background, but here we go. That's the Colorado potato bug larva right there. Those are the guys that cause the problems. And you can see they're in there chewing and eating and munching. Maybe I'll try and get some better video of that. Let's try and get you a decent quality close-up of the Colorado potato bug doing their thing. You can see they're just chewing away. And so, after a few minutes of observation here, and walking up and down the rows a bit, and looking at the quality and vitality of plants, we have a pretty good comparison and a pretty good example of the difference between healthier plants and less healthy plants. Now, I'm not going to call any of my plants truly healthy because I've not done any sap testing this year, and I have no way to confirm or verify that. So, that said, these are clearly much more healthy, both by their vigor and robust growth, but also, as we go over these plants, we have a very distinct lack of Colorado potato bug in these plants. Like, I don't see them anywhere in here. And actually, we can see some spots even on this plant where they chewed. But interestingly enough, we don't see any more of them on there chewing. It's like they chewed it, discovered it to be not very tasty, and abandoned it. And yet, if we zoom out a bit, and we come down this row a little ways, and we move out into where that soil changes, and where plant health is not so good, what do we see immediately? Look at that. That's where the Colorado potato bug is. Less vigorous, less healthy, less robust plants. Visibly so by far. And then as we come back this way, we see them on some of these really robust plants too. But I wonder, will they stick around? And depending on timing here on thunderstorms, I may even do a foliar feed tonight. Especially given our forecast for rain for tomorrow, it wouldn't be bad to have a foliar feed down and have these plants up at the next level of energy so that when the rain hits, they can take off and really turn it on. And I will, again, include the C-stem in that regiment, and I might even bump a little more boron, although I'm due for an accelerate feed this time around. So a lot of factors to consider here, but yeah, I think we're doing okay so far for the season. I was thinking about this, and what a horrible fix this is for this, because when you consider how thick this yoke is, and that's designed to take all that torque, and then you consider how thin this is, it's basically like wrapping a piece of sheet metal around it. It's a pretty sad excuse, and I see why it doesn't last. You know, it's a lot of torque, it's a lot of slapping back and forth as the drive shaft takes stresses. So you're getting hammered in both directions, right? Positive torque and negative torque, so to speak. So I'm looking at this. I'm going to see if I can find a new yoke for the tractor that will actually fit the tractor, actually fit the 1-inch spline, 6 spline shaft on the Ford. And that'll get rid of this adapter issue and make this fit right up to the Ford. And then we won't have that issue anymore. I really want to harden the interface, as it were, to make our equipment more reliable here on the farm. I'm a big fan of really good engineering, thinking things out, planning them out, and building them well. I don't always execute that, because sometimes you got to play it as it lies, right? You know, you got to get it done. But when I have the opportunity to do good engineering for something, I will. And even if that means coming back to something like this, I might buy another slip adapter to get me through, right? But I am going to replace this eventually. These are easy to do. You just pop these clips out. There's a 4-way yoke in there with needle bearings. Just take them out, re-grease them, repack them, put them back together. So if I can find this yoke, that'll solve that issue. I suppose before we get started, I'll just give you another shot here. Get you a little closer look at how the soil's softening up nice. And it really is. And I picked up some buckwheat seed today, 50-pound bags. We can cover crop this, and then once I'm done kind of prepping up around potatoes, I'll probably cover crop between the rows as well. I mean, it's only one seed crop right now, but some green growing cover, as I always talk about, much better, much better than open bare soil that is oxidizing, burning, and killing microbial communities, losing carbon instead of sequestering carbon, and go on down the list of losses. So it's open for now, but this will be covered in green crop as soon as I can feasibly do that in a good way, in a planned and well implemented sequence. So now we get a chance to really see how bad my stakeout was, or how good it was for that rough stakeout that I did a while back. I forget which number Reboot Agriculture it is, but staking out 7,500 square feet, which is what this area is. 100 feet long by 75 feet wide, giving us 7,500 square feet, or about 0.13 acre, if I remember correctly. So just about a little over 1/10 of an acre. And so I'm looking here, I started cutting with the disc. I ran straight up those lines, and I held parallel across just to see how we actually come out for a disc cut and for how our parallel is, because I taped 75 foot up there. I taped 100 down here and 100 down here as close as I could perpendicular on that line. I was trying to hold that ridge line basically, and then stay squeezed within our roadway space on the left side here. But the thing I didn't do at the end, because I just didn't get around to it, it was late and I was tired, I didn't go back and tie a tape across to see if these hold 75 feet between each other. And I definitely didn't do any cross taping to see if it's all square. I'm not so concerned about that, but I do want to hold our 75 foot width about right. And so I'll jump down off the machine here and I'll take you closer on the left hand side, because I started the disc on this side after the showers we had last night. So the disturbed soil would be very obvious how parallel we actually are. The birds are already very happily going after insects and bugs. So here we are at my other stake corner point here, and you can see the old cut line from where I cut the last couple days just to hold that edge. And you can see where we came into this with a little bit of a twist angle here. And I'm trying to decide, you know, which which side do I want to hold? And I'm going, like I said, I'm going to retape it just to be sure we hold about the same width. Because when we go to fence it and we go to run machines up and down it, like I showed you down in the potato rows there, if you get a little bit of off kilter, it can really screw up everything else in the season and everything else in the cropping system. You get off center or offline a little bit, and you got a mess in your hands to deal with the rest of the season. And then you got to just hope you can reset it at the end of the season by disking under and re-squaring everything. But the truth is, the real truth is, the machines that we're using now are heavy machines, and even this Ford 9N being a very lightweight tractor, and I really do appreciate that aspect of this machine, because we're doing a lot less compaction on soil, right? But even with this, we have to recognize that we are compacting soil, and we're putting a tremendous amount of weight on a very small point as we pass through. And that tremendous amount of weight has an effect on soil compaction, not just up here, but deep down in the soil profile too. The weight is there and it exists, and it's a real effect. So we're trying to reduce that effect. But anyway, so if you get your whole setup off kilter, like that one spot down the potatoes where I got twisted off a little bit, there's a little bit of a rut there. And I think I can correct that for next season, but I don't know that that rut won't suck me in again next year. So these are all things to consider early and up front as you start to build out a farm, to try and prevent yourself problems in the future. So I'm looking at this a little more, and I did some walking around and eyeing and looking at the slope of this next section as we go to develop forward up that way, and how I'm going to join the cropping area, the roadway. There's a water key point right under where these trees are that we're going to potentially put a pond or something like that in there. There's a lot of things that kind of come together at this one point, and this kind of ends up being like a very critical or key point for the engineering of how we handle all of this, because it's going to affect everything in the zone here, and it's going to affect our traffic in and out, as far as, you know, getting machines up to the upper blocks, getting up to the other section of the property, up off to the east side. So there's lots to consider here, and looking at that and considering that and looking at the width of this and how little actual roadway space we have here. Now I know we got lots of room to go to the property line, but that's going to take energy and time to clear, and you know, we just can't do that right now. So we're going to try and set this up so that we have plenty of road width on this side. That gives us room to get up into there in the curve, and I think we'll hold this line as our primary line, and we'll snap that way. Now let's just go over the other side and have a look at why that is. So here we are on the other edge, and I know it's kind of buried into that tree there, but that other pinpoint is right up there, and we have room here since I did a little bit of clearing. Once these trees are out of here, that gives us a reasonable roadway in here. I'll have to nip one or two more toward that ridge just to make us room to make a clean go around and not be too close to a fence line. But the other thing we have to consider in this here is this corner in here, and there's a little bit of a slope here. I think it's rock under here, so we don't want to get too close to that, and we have to be able to make a radius, a turn here that isn't unreasonable to come around with a tractor, machinery, cars, trucks, whatever, truck and trailer, you know, hauling in a tank or who knows. So we want to leave room for that in our design so that as we come around this corner, it doesn't turn into a crunch point and we end up clipping a trailer against a fence post and destroying a fence and that kind of stuff. So I think that's why, in part, why I think we're going to hold that line straight, because this line, actually, everything will clear in here, and over there is more of our primary roadway. I mean, I'm going to tend to want to go straight through. So how do we calculate and formulate all this stuff easily and effectively? Well, my friends, that's exactly why we staked out and set stake points with pins. It's as easy as walking back at the other pin with our tape till we get to 75 feet. All right, taping across and looking. It looks like our pin sits about 77. That's not bad for by eye. And 75 puts us right here, and actually, that's right on the edge of our cut. And it runs right to that pin. I like that very much, and we're gonna hold that. Just want to get a shot of this section before the light fades on us here. And also we'll take a look here at the tarragon. You can see that sprouting back from the ground now. Most of those are coming through So that's good news. I'll have to come back and mulch around these a little bit. And ginger's coming along, starting to see new shoots. We got animals chewing on them still. It's very frustrating, but it is what it is. And the tomato plants are just exploding in vigor, vitality, height, size, etc. I guess we'll just take a little stroll down here, and I'll hold like one of these plants up for you so you can see. It's actually probably about a 2-foot tall plant already if it were staked properly. I guess we'll take a look at the holy basil here quick. Just absolutely rocking, exploding, and we are going to have so much seed for next year, and that's fantastic because this stuff is amazing. And I even take a couple of leaves of this and eat it straight when I'm out here. Cherry tomatoes all coming along good. Also need some staking. Let's get back here and at least tie these up to the stakes I got. And we'll take a look at those peppers quick if they're still there. Tomatoes starting to set in those beefsteak already. And our pepper plants are surviving. Over at the turmeric, some of them. That needs a good rain. Growing well, but also we have ongoing deer and rabbit chewing on it, so it is what it is. Anyway, just thought I'd get a clip here before we last. Well, again, with the fading light as usual. But we're pretty well rough graded in here, and that's nice. I've really been sick of going around this, pieces of stump and rock and holes and all that. And there's still some holes in here. We're not totally filled in, but over time we'll fill those in a little more. And at least it's like more drivable, maneuverable, navigable. And then after some rains and such, and with some cover crop in, most of this will kind of feather in fairly smooth. And then we'll be ready to go ahead and start working on the fence lines and that kind of stuff when I get the time and energy to dedicate to fences. For now, I've got the potato and tomato crop to manage, and those are going to have to stay priority. Love hearing the insects sing. Keep friends close.